This week's episode is brought to you by the home and auto insurance brand Canadians trust most, Intact Insurance. Hey everybody, welcome to the Jann Arden podcast and show. I'm Jann Arden. I'm here with Sarah Burke. Caitlin is with Kyle somewhere in the woods of New York. Am I wrong about that? Is that where she is?
I got my first email from husband Kyle today saying, hello, it's actually Caitlin. It's actually Caitlin.
Oh.
I forgot my phone, but our morning festivities, which, you know, they were going to try and make it back to their hotel on their trip so that Caitlin could join us. It didn't work out, but, you know, they're being tourists and they deserve to celebrate their 10th anniversary. So
10th anniversary.
Caitlin promised that she would actually send us a voice note update to include in the episode. Okay. So stay tuned for that at the end.
Yeah. I once made it to 10 years in a relationship.
I never have.
Just FYI, I made it to 10. That was my longest relationship, is 10 years. And after 9 years of not speaking to each other, we are speaking again.
This is the person you referenced not too long ago.
Yes. She's married. Okay. She's married, happily married, I think like 3-4 years. And, but we are speaking again. So it's quite, it's quite, I think it's good. I didn't think I would ever talk to her again, but we're doing okay.
Is it like
which is nice.
You'll check in like as friends, like, you know, call it once a month or something, or like?
No, I don't know if it's going to be anything. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But the sad part about it, I mean, obviously I was very close to her family after a decade, as you do. You spend Christmases and, you know, special occasions, yada, yada, yada. But her sister is who I know very, very well, is fighting like cancer, like just dealing with cancer, the shitty fucking shit cancer she's dealing with. And so I think it's very interesting what happens sometimes is that when traumatic things happen in our lives, we do tend to go back. We adjust that rearview mirror and we look behind us. And I don't know if it's for solace, comfort, familiarity, somebody who knew you really well, somebody who experienced a lot of things, who knew, you know, the family. So I think that was the connector. That was the little thread that hung in the air. And I was in the airport with Chris and I just got a text and I just was like, this is what's going on. And then we, like 6 weeks later or something like that, had a phone call. Anyway, moving on from that, we're very sorry that Caitlin isn't here today. There's lots to talk about. Like Sarah was saying, Caitlin's going to send us an update of the wonderful time they're having. 10 years. Congratulations, Kyle and
Mazel
Caitlin.
tov.
Yeah, and you guys are the epitome of a really strong relationship. You've had so many obstacles, so many challenges, a lot of sorrow. For a young couple, you guys have been through some shit. And you guys are very inspiring. And unless I can have my own Kyle, I don't want anybody. So thanks a lot, Kyle, for, you know, being so effing great. Screw you.
For being a great partner. Yeah. No, it's interesting what you said, you know, even on the topic of your ex, and I'm coming at it from a very different spot. And I know you don't want to like go too far into it. We have lots to talk about. But just got an update on my dad, and things are good. He had his first 3-month check-in since the surgery that he had to remove what was cancer, and all clear again. And but that I think is what got me and my sister over that tough time that we were having.
Do you see what I mean? There's those connecting threads. Yeah. And I always say a grief shared is a grief lessened. I mean, lessened, less. There's less to carry yourself.
Totally.
And I'm glad that you were able to recognize kind of a hand that reached through the clouds like Merlin trying to pull you out of quicksand of like, hey, let's have a conversation. And maybe because you guys didn't have to speak about each other. You didn't have to talk about what your issues were with your sister. It wasn't you did this or you said that or remember this time and I was so disappointed. It was dad.
This matters a lot more.
And consoling each other. And this is a bigger issue. And I think with my ex as well, it was like this is a bigger issue than anything that you and I did. I mean, we absolutely did drop the ball. There was too much drinking going on, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And I certainly won't get into it here, but I felt really honored that she took the time to share that with me of what they were going through. And you just, I thought, oh my God, it's so ridiculous to carry all this anger around and animosity. And it was a gift. So I feel like I was given an opportunity to grow up, take responsibility for my own actions, realize how ridiculous that I was being, to hang on to old ideas. I mean, we are much different people a decade later. Much different people.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And, then you get thinking, gosh, if we were the versions of ourselves now, would we have had a chance? Like you do go through that.
Yeah.
Sifting through it. I think that's why a lot of people end up back together again after they've broken up, and then they fucking break up again because they realize, oh yeah, this is why. This is why.
And grief is such a funny thing. The word that's coming to mind for me is like bypass. It's like a bypass or a bridge. And even if you're not capable of having the conversation about like things from the past, and I'm a very confrontational person and I don't mind having those conversations, but I know my sister is not that person, and I would even say my parents are not those people. So it just gave us like a runway to move on in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it is.
No, I agree. Anyway. That's a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up, because I think a lot of our listeners, you guys each have moments like that in your lives where something sad, something tragic, something difficult reconnected you to someone that you couldn't find a way back to them. Like there was no, you're being too petty. You're being too picky. You're dealing with the minutia of situations where we all are so capable of like picking things apart and making issues much bigger than they need to be. Listen, we're all going to drop dead someday. So I would behoove you to not carry all this shit with you as you go forward. I saw a great little meme on Instagram a couple of days ago, and it was a tree. And it said, get ready to watch nature show you how kick-ass it is to let things go. And obviously it was speaking to the leaves on the tree that, a tree has to like just let it go. I know this sounds so trite and so silly and so like, oh.
I'm really bad at letting go. Like my hands in the air. I know I'm terrible at it. I'm so bad.
How come?
It's funny for me to even be asked this question, because I think here's some zodiac. This is for Caitlin.
Okay.
I'm a Pisces.
All right.
We've got some feelings. We're sensitive people. And so I think sometimes, even the expectation of like treating others how you want to be treated, like I can't wrap my head around that sometimes, where I'm being treated a different way than I would want to treat that person. I don't know. I get hung up on stuff like that.
Do you want to be right?
I mean, I feel like we all want to be right.
No,
I'm very good.
I don't want to be right. I'd rather have peace than be right, and I mean that.
Okay, that is very interesting. But do
you want to have peace, or do you want to be right? And sometimes those are your choices.
With my sister, peace. My answer is peace. Right?
Really, honestly, at the depth of your heart, you do not want to be right over your sister.
I did want to be right previous, but now we're in peace. And peace feels so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a lot of therapy work to get to peace. So,
well, good for you.
Yeah.
And I mean that earnestly. I think it's really important to change and to want to change. God knows, I don't want to stay the same person. I think about being in my 20s, and then in my 30s, I'm thinking, okay, that's it. I've changed. This is who I'm going to be. And then in my 40s, I look back at my 30s and I'm going, Jesus Christ, I don't want to be that. And then in my 50s, I'm looking back at my 40s going, oh my God, thank God I got out of that stage. And now in my 60s, and this is what's going to happen. If I have the grace and the opportunity to be 72, because I'm 62, I know that I'm going to look back at 62 and go, you fucking ding dong. And I wish that I was this person now, because with time, And there's nothing else that gives it to you. There's nothing academic. There's not a class you can take. I don't even think there's any amount of therapy. There is something about time in and of itself, the passage of time and the addition of experiences and things that have happened to you that go into your arsenal of, you can look into your little goodie bag and go, oh, this happened to me once. Now I can use this experience to help me get through this time in my life.
There's a thread here with the thread of time goes hand in hand with the grief conversation that we just had.
Yeah, because time is a wise healer.
It's the fear of time passing, I think, that leads you back to the connection. I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that. I don't know. All I know is that I'm grateful for the courage that it took her to send me that text and to speak to me, because I'd made it very clear, I don't want to talk to you. And I had gone through that whole thing. I'm blocking this. I'm going to block that. I'm going to do this. And I've since now unblocked. I'm following her on Instagram. I didn't want to look at it for a long time. But that is the passage of time.
It's so funny that we even talk about, like, oh, are we following each other on Instagram? Like, regardless of if it's an ex or a family member or whatever, it's so funny that that's part of the conversation now.
Yeah, it's part of our modern world. People are breaking up by text. People are breaking up on Facebook. People know that they've been broken up with when they see their ex-lover's profile and it says single. Like, where before it was like, with or whatever. They literally changed the profile.
We thought it was bad when Sarah Jessica Parker had to break up with a Post-it note in the Sex and the City series.
Right?
Remember that?
Yes.
Things have just progressed terribly there. But anyway.
Well, just be prepared to be great. Be prepared to be awesome. Yeah. Be prepared to step in to a really great version of yourself. I make missteps every day. I say things that I just wish that I hadn't said. Yeah. I know there's lots of people out there that say no regrets. I have a million of them. And that's the way I live my life. That's my truth. I have a lot of things I regret. I regret being promiscuous when I was in my 20s. I regret it enormously. It still shakes me. It still bothers me. It doesn't control my life. It doesn't steal from my joy. But there's a part of me, the 20-year-old me, that I mourn her. That version of me didn't get the truest sense of how great I was and how worthy I was and how worthwhile I guess I was. And
you give yourself a lot of grace too, though. You're good at both sides.
Absolutely. And I'm totally a different person, but I don't just throw that stuff away like it never happened. Sometimes I take it out of its jar and I look at it and I ponder it and I think about myself, but it's just made me a better person for sure.
Yeah. And self-awareness is such a key to, I think, growing as a person, right? And sometimes that involves looking in the mirror and being like, where could I do better? And sometimes it's hard to have that talk with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people would rather stay where there's some people that will stick to wanting to have the upper hand and wanting to be right and wanting to have revenge and wanting to punish the other person. And the only person they're punishing is themselves. And I've learned that because I have been there and I have done that. But some people will hang on to that to the last breath they take. They will hang on to that until they are sick. They could be dying of whatever. They could have freaking God knows what bringing them down. And they will hang on to that hatred and that really diabolical, twisted way of thinking until they breathe out and leave this earth. So many people.
Trump.
Well, it's a disease. It's mental illness, and I'm pretty convinced he probably has the beginning of dementia. No normal person speaks like this. So let's just jump into that for a minute, because I think we'd be remiss not to mention it. And by the time you listeners hear this on Friday, this debate will have been 3 days old. This is
we're recording morning after the debate.
The morning after the debate. So this is fresh for us. This is a Daily Mail article. So this is in the UK. But I loved this because I kind of made me cheer in my heart. And their take on it: betting odds on 2024 presidential race take a dramatic turn after Harris-Trump debate. That was the headline. It says Kamala Harris is now predicted to win the U.S. election after the odds took a dramatic turn during the televised debate last night, according to online betting exchange Betfair. And the reason I'm telling you guys this is that to me, this was an interesting angle. It wasn't a poll. It wasn't polling. It wasn't political polling. It wasn't controlled by, any of the normal things that you hear about with polls, because polls change fucking minute to minute. Yeah. This is a betting site, probably a bunch of guys that bet on sports all the time, but they're now taking bets on the presidential race, because you can bet on, is the wind going to blow on Thursday, and win money. Like, there's nothing you cannot bet on.
Yeah.
But it was interesting that a bunch of guys that are putting their money on the line, not just their opinion, but they're betting thousands and thousands of dollars, and they're putting it on Kamala Harris to win. So that to me is the stakes are a little bit higher than a poll where you have absolutely no dog in the hunt. You're not going to lose money.
It's almost like we're being conditioned to think of this presidential race in a different way. Like, okay, I'm holding up my phone right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, the graphic that went out about the debate. You've got these two heads facing each other like it's a boxing match, right?
It's a fight. It's geared up to be a fight.
It's geared up to be a fight, and it's being positioned as a fight. And of course, politics are always a fight. There's always that air. But like, the betting and the showbiz around this particular election is very interesting. And, would you put money on this?
Yeah, I think I would. The article goes on to say that punters were quick to react to the key moments in the debate, as you are. Everyone's watching it in real time. It's like a horse getting ahead, and then your horse is getting behind a little bit, and then your horse is getting ahead. More than £1 million were wagered last night on that debate, of going into the pool of who's going to actually win the election. Harris was widely declared the winner of the contest on ABC as well in America. This is what our friends in the UK are reporting. Anyway, there's things that come up. I'd be remiss not to speak to Trump saying that there was immigrant families that were eating pets, cats and dogs.
Yeah, we had a vegan angle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Which is absolutely, completely false.
Untrue.
It's just simply not true. Saying that babies were being murdered after being born after the 9 months, that they were being murdered. One of the hosts came on and said that is absolutely not true. There's no state in the United States that is legal. And he just shut up. He just was very stoic. He was very reactionary. He did exactly, I think, what all the training that Kamala Harris has done the last few months with her team preparing for a debate. He did everything. He took every line that she cast into the river. He bit. That whole thing about the sizes of his crowds, and that people would leave because they're so bored. And they always completely are exaggerating the size of his crowds at these rallies.
Yeah.
He bought into that. He went off on these tangents that he never really answered a question, and he never really had any. He's really backed down on the Roe versus Wade thing too. Go ahead. You're laughing. There were so many highlights.
Many things. Okay, yeah. I want to talk about the Roe v. Wade for sure in a second, because it's such an important conversation. But like, do you have a plan, sir? I have concepts of a plan. I was dying laughing for like 2 hours. I'm like, how on a televised national
But his
debate?
People won't care, right? His people won't care that he has a concept of a concept of a concept of a plan.
They just won't how do you admit care. That? How do you admit that to all these people? It's
but
so
going
stupid.
Back to people that are there's hills that they will die on. Yeah. Donald Trump, and I've said this before, that could shoot Jesus at a synagogue. Shoot him in the head.
Yes.
And it would be the same thing. They would find ways. Well, he obviously had a reason he had to do that.
Yeah.
And anyway, it's so ridiculous. The people that follow him and that follow what he said, he's clearly crazy. If you were to see a debate like that 20 years ago, if you were to see something on any level, whether it was Barack Obama against, whoever. It's ridiculous. We've never seen this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
No, I'm still laughing. So I've got Dear Taylor Swift's post in front of me. Should we read a little bit of this?
Yeah, it's interesting. Her fans have been criticizing her, and the world has been criticizing her to pick a side. And it's sad that she's been bullied into any of this stuff.
Yeah.
She doesn't have to fucking do anything. She doesn't have to appease you. But, anyways, go ahead and read what she's...
Yeah, and this kind of gets us into like some of those hot button topics, including Roe v. Wade too. So she posted, and this is moments after that debate finishes. She had this ready to go. Like many of you, I watched the debate tonight. If you haven't already, now is a great time to do your research on the issues at hand and the stances these candidates take on the topics that matter to you most. As a voter, I make sure to watch and read everything I can about the proposed policies and plans for this country. First paragraph is, please do your due diligence. I'm speaking to you as another citizen of this country. Okay.
You need to read. I've read all the stuff to find out what I need to find out. Yeah.
And she's being objective. Make your own decision, but please participate, right? Then there's this next paragraph. Recently, I was made aware that AI of me falsely endorsing Donald Trump's presidential run was posted to his site. We've talked a lot about AI on this podcast too. It has really conjured up my fears around AI and the dangers of spreading misinformation. It brought me to the conclusion that I need to be very transparent about my actual plans for this election as a voter. The simplest way to combat misinformation is with the truth. And then she goes on to say, I am casting my vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the 2024 presidential election. I'm voting for Kamala because she fights for the rights and causes I believe need a warrior to champion them. I think she's a steady-handed, gifted leader, and I believe we can accomplish so much more in this country if we're led by calm and not chaos. Like, that's the underlying theme of what we saw, chaos versus calm in that debate.
Yeah.
And then she says, Tim Walz, who's been standing up for LGBTQ plus rights, IVF, and a woman's right to her own body for decades. She's researched this. And then the tip of the hat at the end to those stupid comments from previous to this debate. I've done my research and I've made my choice. Your research is all yours to do. The choice is yours to make. I also want to say, especially to first-time voters, remember that in order to vote, you have to register. With love and hope, Taylor Swift, the childless cat lady. Yeah. Yeah. So good. So good.
Well, Mr. Vance and Mr. Walz will be the next people on our small screens to debate going to, forward into an election that's 2 months away, basically.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think it's going to even be more harebrained than this last one. I think JD Vance is just, what a weird choice he made. That might have been the last frontier, but you don't know what the American people are going to do. I think it's going to be really close. I'm going to call it now. I think the Democrats are going to win by probably less than a percentage point. And I think it's going to be close. And Trump is already setting everybody up to saying that this is going to be rigged. It's already, he already knows it. But I think people will be very, very cautious, let's say, to do another January 6th. They've seen people arrested and people in jail for many, many, many years based on their behavior after the election was lost by the Republicans. So I don't think we will see that again. I think, they're going to be prepared. I'm sure the armed forces are going to be at the ready during the election. Then after Christmas, when the inauguration is going to take place, I think America is very smart. They're going to have everything in place so that the people that are anarchists, that do want to smash windows and break shit and hurt people and just have an excuse to be assholes. That's what anarchists do. They wait for an opportunity just to rage. Just that anger. So I think it's going to be a different scene. People are already worried about, oh my God, what's going to happen? Yes. And I hope she wins. And this seems like a tipping point.
Yeah.
And Canadians may say, you may want to write into us and say, it doesn't matter. Why do we care so much what goes on in America? I'll tell you what, we need to care. It is, we are joined forever
at the hip
with the United States. They are our biggest trading partner. We're so affected by the decisions that happen there. And as you have seen over the years, how that politicking, that left and right swing, has so adversely affected us here. We're more divided in Canada than we ever have been since I've been alive. And we never really had a left and a right. We definitely had a middle ground, and we definitely had a lot of people that voted depending on who was in their jurisdiction and who they liked, and who they kind of felt good about. And now it's, this whole Poilievre Trudeau thing. It's a mirror of what's going on. You look at Poilievre and some of the stuff he says and the claims that he makes and the lies that he tells and the things that he spins. But, Trudeau is doing himself no favors by how he's conducted himself. We have two young men in this country that are poor examples of who should be leading us. Yes. But here we have it. But it's very left and very right. And
a tale of caution, like for both the US and Canada, in that if the elections are as close between these opposing sides, the real problem is, why is it that close?
Well, it just goes to show you how split we are. We all are. Yeah. But the sad part is the election, that we might have an early election here. It depends what unfolds with everything that's happened with the NDP, splitting off their partnership with the minority Liberals. So, they don't have that to lean on anymore. They don't have the NDP that's going to just put their vote of yes on the table for anything the Liberals say. I think we all lose. As Canadians, we lose no matter what happens in this next election, because nobody's really going to get who they want. And once again, we're left voting because you're voting for the lesser of two evils. That's no way to go into a hopeful outcome in any country.
Which is why, from when we first had Biden and Trump to now Kamala and Trump, it's reminiscent of that time, right? Where you're like, we shouldn't have to choose between this.
Well, you'd think it would be very clear, but on the other side of that, Sarah, you think about people who feel ignored, marginalized, invisible, people that are making probably $10,000 a year, people that are very poorly educated, people that have never left their state, people who do not have a passport, people have never read a newspaper. People laugh at these, but statistically, I'm not telling you these things. I'm not making this up. This is documented stuff about the people, of who these people are. And they're mad. They're fucking mad. Anyway, we could talk about this for 11,000 months of Sundays.
Last night, Caitlin sent us a text in our group chat that she had met some Americans, that she was drinking with some American new friends. Here's the update from Caitlin.
It was really fun to watch the debate in the U.S. It feels like you see all of the Harris Waltz signs around town and the occasional Trump sign, although I feel like we're in Harris Waltz County currently. And overall, I think like everyone seems to have decided she clearly won the debate. He did start out strong on the economy, and I think she was nervous when kicking things off, and it took, 15 minutes for her to kind of find her feet. But the second that the tone changed to abortion and to dealing with the inhumanity faced by so many women in the U.S. as a result of the Trump abortion bans, I think that's where she had him on the ropes, and he seemed to stay there and just get increasingly unhinged. I mean, we've never had sound bites like this from a presidential debate where someone is just on stage talking about people's pets being eaten, like crazy QAnon conspiracy theory, E-bombs, world level political strategy. It's really, it's entertaining. So I enjoyed watching it, and I hope we get to see another one. But he's saying he's not going to go back to the debate, of course, because he believes he won the last two that they've already had. But she said that voters deserve to see them debate again, which I agree with, but I don't know that it would be any benefit to Trump, because it's clear she's figured out how to get under his skin by talking about things like his number of people at rallies and everyone saying that they were leaving because they were bored or exhausted. I mean, she knows how to bait him. So I think his team would be wise to say, you know what, stay off the stage with her, because you can't guarantee a normal performance out of Donald Trump on the fly like that.
Welcome back to the Jann Arden podcast. I'm here with Sarah. Caitlin is in the United States of America. She's drinking with Americans. We're very curious to see how that unfolds and what Caitlin got up to. In the meantime, we got a lovely letter from a lovely person. And Sarah's going to read it to you because I am feeling very boastful, because it's nice to get these letters from our listeners. You can send us letters. You can send us voice notes. You can text us. You can Instagram us. You can all the stuff. You can Twitter us, X us.
And just know that we see a lot of this stuff, and we do try our best to, you know, respond or read them when we can. And we've been very heavy on asking you for voice notes, but this was just such a lovely note that we had to share it.
We have to share it.
It's from Janine. Hi, I was listening to your podcast episode, Almost Famous, this morning. And when the three of us, I think she means you, were speaking about hair, I had to share my story about embracing a big change in my life, one that started with a little hair dye and ended with a whole new look on self-care. For over 2 decades, I proudly rocked my salon-colored brunette hair, which was a huge part of my identity. I never imagined going gray. Thinking about my brunette hair was key to staying youthful and confident, but then the pandemic hit. With salons closed, my roots started to show, revealing silver strands among the familiar brunette. And I must admit, I panicked. I bought a case of my usual color because there was no way I was going gray. At least that's what I thought at the time. As the weeks went by, something surprising happened. I started to see those silver strands in a new light. They weren't just gray. They sparkled with a kind of wisdom and strength that I hadn't noticed before. I thought you would love that line. I also realized that my new silver hair was finer and more fragile than my brunette looks. This required me to treat it with more care, which soon became a metaphor for my general approach to self-care. This change reminded me to be gentle with myself, both inside and out. One day it hit me, my silver hair was more than a sign of aging. It was a beautiful mix of shimmering shades, a natural masterpiece that told the story of my life. Letting go of the dye wasn't just about changing my hair color. It was about embracing my true self and letting go of insecurity. That being said, there are still days when I look in the mirror and seriously consider running to the salon. I'm a work in progress, and that's okay. We all have some moments of doubt, but embracing them is part of the journey. Given that many women start finding gray hairs in their 30s, what does that suggest about how we measure a woman's worth? I would love to hear you more. I would love to hear you chat more about how society views gray hair. And I feel like you and Caitlin must have talked about Lisa LaFlamme and the pandemic.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
She was like the poster child.
Yeah. When that was all unfolding, it was so discouraging and so disappointing in so many ways, because for, 20 plus years, 25 years, we'd watched Lisa and certainly watched her reporting. She reported, all over the world. She was, she was out there putting herself on the front lines of some very dangerous shit.
Yeah.
And, she not only was Lisa, a reporter, she wasn't just a talking head on CTV. Lisa wrote all these stories. She gathered news all day. She talked to her colleagues. They went deep. They didn't just scratch the surface. They double checked and triple checked, and they were with lawyers and discussing things and breaking news stories. And she was doing all this stuff. She wasn't just someone that got up there and read a teleprompter. That's not the way she rolled. No. So when we watched her during COVID, such a steady voice and such a person that we all looked to the news. Like every night I did. I was never really a huge news watcher, certainly not on like local stations or national stations even. And I was every night watching what was going on, what was the newest things, what was the vaccines doing. And she just reported it all with a steady hand. So yeah. And then the gray hair, she just, like all of us, like our, wonderful listener. And she just went gray before our very eyes. And it looked like majestic and beautiful and powerful. Totally. There was so much power in that. And anyway, then it was just a real shit show. And CTV, I think really dropped the ball by letting her go. And I know the guy that fired her, he's no longer there. I mean, all that stuff just unravels.
Yeah.
Everyone that has anything to do with it, those guys change positions so quickly at those corporations. They're there for a year and then they're gone, and then they're fucking up some other company somewhere else. It's just it's really something to watch. It is. It really is.
Yeah.
Anyway, as promised, on September the 27th, you might have seen this on Horseshit Canada on Instagram, on Twitter, on my Twitter, on Wendy Williams Watt's Instagram and Twitter. We are having an event for Horseshit, and this is a big media event. People are welcome. It's a free event. It's not a concert. I don't want to, make anyone think that this is some concert that I'm doing. It's not.
Okay.
If
we'll
I feel
put a
like
link
singing
to all this stuff in the show notes
if I feel like singing a song, I will. But we're going to be just meeting each other. The star of the show is Matilda. She is a giant horse, and she is as tame as the day is long. They're bringing her. We're going to give her the velvet rope treatment in the alleyway. But you're welcome to take pictures and come up and see. What we wanted to show people was the size and the majesty of the horses that they are stuffing into airplanes. Last night, out of Edmonton, about another 80 or 90 horses went. Terrified horses, hit with cattle prods, forced into these wooden crates. There's a report coming out. By the time this podcast is on, you will have seen a huge report coming out of Japan from their animal rights organizations. It is fucking disgusting and grim. It is terrible what happens to these horses when they get to that end. The lies that people are telling, the untruths about the traveling, the deaths. Over 21 dead horses. Myriad injuries, pneumonia, collapsing from dehydration. It is a absolute spinning of a roulette wheel to get these horses over there. It is a sham. It is an absolute scar on the face of Canadian agriculture, because it is considered Canadian agriculture. It's not. It's a bunch of fuckwits that came up from the U.S. that got banned down there. So I thought, let's go to Canada where they don't have any fucking laws. They sure did. So I'll give you the address. This is happening in Vancouver.
I was about to say, where is this happening?
And I'll just read it to you now. It's 20, if you've got a pen handy, it's 220 114th East Street, I guess. So 220 114th East 4th, sorry. 4th is the street. So 220 114 East 4th, Vancouver. It's free admission. Matilda will be there. We have lots of merch. We have tons of information. I'm going to be taking pictures, meeting people. I will answer any questions that you have about horseshit. What the meaning of this is, obviously, like I said, having press come there. We have hopefully CTV, hopefully Global, hopefully CBC. Hopefully some print stuff will be there as well. The Hive, we're hoping that they come. And just report on this bill went through the House of Commons. It passed 2 House of Commons. That's a testament to our members. I was going to
ask what happened. Yeah, where is it
and
now?
Then it goes to the Senate. So it's gone past 1 reading in the Senate, and now the second one, it's stalled. Now they go back into session, I think imminently. I think the House of Commons goes back. The Senate goes back in. They start doing business again. Like kids, they're off at the summertime. They got to give these people a break. And so we need to get this thing done. So obviously they are, the exporters are sending as many horses as they can while this bill waits in limbo. It's wrong. It's repugnant. It's vile. It's sinister. And these horses deserve better. I'm not telling you what to fucking eat, but you know what? Grow up. Grow up. These are feeling, thinking, breathing, sentient beings that are so terrified. They're shitting all over themselves. They're pissing all over themselves. You know, horses get colicky. Their stomachs twist into pieces. They don't give a fucking shit. When there's turbulence and we're on a plane, we get to buckle down. And we also have a captain coming on saying, guess what, folks? For the next 20 minutes, it's going to be a roller coaster. Flight attendants, take your seats. Horses got fuck all. They are thrown from stem to stern. They fall on each other. They can't right themselves. They're 4 at a time in these wooden crates. They have netting over the crates. They can't lift their heads properly. Do you know what it's like for a horse not to lift their head? It's to oppress them. It's to keep them docile. It's to keep them, they're in such a state of agitation and anxiety.
Yeah.
And you have this fuckwit that is head of the Horse Association of Canada or something, and shame on fucking you, whoever that is. Oh, they just get in there and they go to sleep. They don't mind it at all. These fucking old guys should not be in positions like that. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop. End of story. It's antiquated thinking. It's not based on science. It's not based on anything. If Japan wants to eat big horses, I highly fucking recommend you raise them yourselves. You use your water, your resources, your land, and you do it domestically. The day that this ship has sailed, no more live exports on any animal.
Yeah.
We need to stop eating them altogether. Period. Full stop. Stop domesticating them. Stop farming them. Stop doing this. We are a sick, sick group of people.
Mm-hmm. So I saw like there's not a new petition, or there is a new petition?
No, there's no new petition. There's no petition.
But you're asking people to write their
senator. You can do that from www.horseshit.ca. You can click a link.
Okay.
You can provide your email.
Now.
Yeah. And it's just, I'll tell you what, this is not part of the gross national product of Canada. This is not feeding Canadians. This is not helping Canadians. This does not employ a bunch of Canadians. Yeah. This is a handful of people. And I have talked to airport workers that are involved in these loads. They say they have absolute nightmares about them. The horses are foaming at the mouth. I can't go to the loads anymore. I've been to so many loads at the airport. They've now built probably a 14-foot high fence around the loading facility. You used to be able to look over it. And since we've been, pushing back against, these flights go out at 3:00 in the morning. Yeah. I wonder why that is, fellas, because they don't want anyone to see it. Yeah. Anyway, with the report now that's out from Animal Justice, you can read it yourselves. It's out there now. You'll see the injuries, the pneumonia, the anxiety, the horrible things that are happening to these horses. And it has all been covered up. The flight times are consistently over what is legal. What the Canadian government has set out for themselves as a appropriate flying time, travel time, 28 hours. Over, consistently. So you guys can fuck off. Seriously. Okay, well, listen, I don't want to leave it at that note. We want to leave it something funny. But I'll tell you, when I get talking about this, you guys, and I don't talk about horse shit a lot on this podcast, but because the event is coming up, I wanted to, well, it does make me mad. Canadians don't want it. I haven't heard one. Yeah, I haven't heard. There's never one time has anyone come up to me and said, it's really, why don't you mind your own business? There's nothing wrong with flying these horses. I've never had one person. And even in social media, which can be very dark and diabolical and full of vitriol, I have so many men, so many hunters, men that are hunters. This isn't right. It's not right what they're doing. Yeah. So I think across the board, the only people that do want to continue doing it, because of Pierre Poilievre, he had the progressive conservatives blanket vote to kibosh this bill. They didn't support it. Not one conservative MP. So let this tell you about that party. They all, no matter what their feelings were, they were pressured by their fearless leader because it was introduced by a Liberal MP. Tim Lewis, it was his first private member's bill that he put on in the House. And thank you, Tim Lewis. Thank you so much for introducing this bill to end the live horse export. But the not one conservative voted. It was because of the NDP, some of the Bloc Québécois, and the Liberals. But they also promised us that they were going to end this when the Liberals were voted in. Justin Trudeau mandated to the Minister of Agriculture. She has done fuck all. Well, we have to study it, we have to keep studying it. Let's study more. Let's study it. What are you going to fucking study? What's to study about shoving a horse into a box? that is shitting and pissing on itself. No food, no water. And never mind that. Here's one little final fun fact for you. And if you guys are at all squeamish, don't listen to what I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
These horses are stunned. First of all, they're hung up by their back leg. Hung. There's a hook that goes through. They hung them upside down. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds, these horses.
Yeah.
They're stunned. Their hearts need to be beating when they butcher them because this meat is eaten raw and they want it as engorged with blood as it can possibly be, which requires a heart to beat. I'm telling you, this is from the dark ages, and it is not morally acceptable in 2024. We are not in a country that is impoverished, although there's a lot of poverty in Canada. Don't ever think there isn't. We are better than this. We should be leading the world with animal agriculture. Horses fought in the First and Second World War. They fought alongside their human companions. They pulled wagons. They pulled cannons. They carried artillery. They carried food. Yeah. They've taken human beings to every corner of this planet, pulling them, pushing them, pulling logs out of the trees, clearing their land. It's, my grandfather, this is not right. Yeah. Please help us. 27th of September. All the information will be on the podcast. Listen, we are going to leave it there because you know what? Let's listen to some great voice notes.
Oh, I thought you'd never ask.
Just forgive me for going on. I promise I'm not going to do this again because I actually feel physically upset.
I can tell.
Yeah, I feel physically upset.
Every time you talk about it on the podcast, and I've been with this podcast coming up on 2 years. Actually, it's our 2-year I feel like it's our...
Is our friendiversary? Is it our podiversary? Did we make it? Are we going to make it to 10 years?
I started with you 2 Septembers ago. Yeah. That's crazy.
Honey, welcome home. I'm going to get you some kind of a ring with your birthstone in it.
Stop. Okay, so listen, though. Every time that you have talked about this on the podcast, which has really only been, I'm going to say twice since we've been working together. That's not a lot for a cause that's that close to your heart. And every time that you talk about it, the feedback that we get from listeners, at least that I can see, is, wow, I really didn't know about this. And that's why doing it once in a while is important. I know you don't want to go off about it. And, your podcast is normally very uplifting, very hopeful, very inspiring. But this is an important message that needs to be shared. So I don't think it's a bad thing what you just did.
If you see something that's wrong,
yeah,
do you shove your hands into your pocket and let somebody else do the heavy lifting? Trust me when I tell you, this takes up a lot of space in my body. I've been doing this for, 7, 8 years. And it's something that I deal with almost every day, talking to press, explaining to people, talking to government representatives. I had a meeting with Justin Trudeau himself. He tracked me down when I was there singing at Canada Day. And he wanted to tell me, he said, this is a money grab. He goes, I know what's wrong. But he said, you will get further along with a private member's bill than you will with me. He said, everything I do is shut down by the Conservatives, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sat there for 15 or 20 minutes sweating profusely because I had run down the goddamn street. Chris is like, can you meet the Prime Minister in like 25 minutes? I'm like, I haven't even showered.
What?
We just ran down the street.
Yeah.
And, but, going to the loads at the airport, standing in front of the Japanese consulate with signs, doing W5, working with the Canadian Horse Defense Coalition, working with Wendy Williams-Watt and her team, the Together Heads, the campaign that they've put together. She is responsible for horse shit.
Yeah. And did I see Pamela Anderson was just...
She wore a horse shit t-shirt for us. I think a very good friend of hers who's in fashion and production and stuff. He got her to throw on a t-shirt for us. So nice. Thank you, Pam, for that. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it. The horses appreciate. I mean, she's been a tireless supporter. for animal rights for years and years and years. And she's vegan, and she's all the things. She walks the walk.
Yeah. But your message is not you have to be vegan and you have to be this. You're just saying, please be aware what's happening and help us get the word out. Like your approach to it is
it's the same thing. You don't have 100,000 chickens in a poorly ventilated fucking shed, standing on wire grates, pumped full of drugs so they pump out eggs once a day. You don't do it. And if you're fucking buying those eggs from Costco, it's immoral. You've got to start thinking about who these animals are, at the very least. Get an egg where the chicken is standing on the ground in these shitty sheds, walking around in their own shit. But at the very least, do that. Pay $1 more for a free range egg, and then pay $3 more for, an organic chicken. That's maybe there's not 100,000 of them. There's only 40,000 of them walking around in their shit. And then never mind that, all the male chicks are ground up, folks. From the time they come out of the egg, they go on a conveyor belt and they're ground up live. Oh my God. It's just so, the thing that blows my mind is that people go, oh, I know. I just don't like animal cruelty at all. But I can't get my kids to eat. It's excuse after excuse after excuse. It's now better. You just know. And it's probably tougher for you, Sarah, having known me and all this stuff all the time. I'm sure you think twice when you're eating a piece of chicken. You're like, oh God. Or
I definitely do. And you have opened my eyes to so many things, and I'm still grateful for it, even though I haven't made all the decisions to change everything in my life.
Took me a long time.
The small decisions I have made, I thank you for.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
I'm having tofu sometimes, right? And things that I just never would have tried. And being more mindful about where I purchase things or how I purchase things, for sure.
Exactly. That's
all you can ask the regular people for that are not vegans, right? It's like...
It's not an all or nothing world, folks. It's not all or nothing. Being plant-based, if you do it 20% of the time, you're making a huge impact.
You're making a difference.
You're making a huge difference. But animals,
the way they're treated. Note.
Yeah, okay. Okay, now voice notes. Voice notes.
Hi, Jann, Caitlin, and Sarah. Caitlin, you and I have messaged each other on Twitter. I usually tag you on cute animal videos. Jann, we once met. You were about to go on the air. I informed you that I shaved my legs for the occasion, and you told everybody on the air. Thank you. Sarah, you and I have not interacted, but I am now a fan of yours as well. You guys talked about getting to a fuck it stage when it comes to getting a bit older, and I think you referred specifically to cutting your hair. And I normally have very, very long hair, and I just got tired of the maintenance. And I wanted to style my hair upwards and not downwards. And it's literally uplifting. I've repainted furniture to a lighter color. I've gotten rid of 12 bags of stuff. So just going through a bit of a transition. And when you guys talked about sort of screw it, you just wanted to move through life with comfort and ease without sacrificing style. That resonated with me. Thanks for all that you do. Look forward to the live event in October. Take care. Toodly-doo.
Toodly-doo.
I love that. But yeah, so the fuck it, that resonated with people.
Absolutely.
I wonder if this next one has a fuck it vibe.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, Jann. Hi, Caitlin. Wanted to add a voice note for you guys for next week. A couple things you touched on this week were topics I related to, like the Totally Hot album. That was my first album I ever had. That was mine, that my dad bought me for my birthday when I was about 10 or 11. I was 10 when Grease came out, so it must have been about 11 because it was around that same time. And then the periods. I can relate. I used to have a period regularly as a teenager from age 12 forward, but, it'd be 8 to 10 days, horrible cramps, sometimes stay home from school, so bad cramps. As I got older, after I had kids, the cramps had gone away, but I started having my periods like every 8 to 10 days.
Oh God, I hear
and then they would be so heavy that At one point, I bled out of the top of my pants and up to the middle of
Yep.
my back of my shirt while I was sitting in a restaurant.
Oh,
And I
boy.
too had a long jacket, thank God, like Jan did
Oh.
when she was on the airplane. But what a nightmare. Welcome to that hysterectomy with open arms. However, when about a year later, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease. And Hashimoto's is an autoimmune version of hypothyroidism.
I've heard of that.
Which causes all of the symptoms I was having, which nobody ever tested me for. So just a little note for anybody out there having any similar issues, and you've not been diagnosed with any kind of thyroid issue, you might want to look into it. Can't hurt, but made a lot of sense after I found out what I had. So love you guys so much. Listen every week, and I comment on all your posts, and you probably are sick of hearing from me.
Never.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Don't ever stop.
Yeah, don't ever stop commenting. I've heard of 2 people, young people, like, one girl that is, I believe, within a year or 2 of me and my sister, potentially about Hashimoto's.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
You're hearing more and more about these things all the time.
Yes.
Thank you for that. That's very vulnerable of you to put that down. But yeah, those accident things where you're just, and I don't know why there's so much shame attached to them, like you said, but just that you had the long jacket. It's just awful. I really feel for you. And it's going to be really interesting. Sarah is scared shitless. She's scared going forward. But anyway, thank you for your note. And do we have any more voice notes?
We have 2 more.
Oh, gosh.
Also, this is how I'm going to get through that phase of my life. You're going to get a text from me one morning 10 years from now when I'm almost going through it. And I'm going to say to you, can I borrow the chair?
I'm telling you, you have periods that are bad enough. I'll never forget the guy from the airplane carrying in the seat bottom to replace the seat of the seat that I was sitting in the plane. Like, it must happen all the time. He was ready with the seat cushion.
Yeah, it didn't even.
Oh, we got another bleeder on aisle 17A.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Jann, Sarah, and Caitlin. This is Michelle from Kincardine, Ontario. I just finished reading The Biddlemores, Jann, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Is there anything you can't do? Singer, songwriter, actor, writer, activist, vegan guru. You're an amazing woman, and I enjoy the podcast every week. Love you all. Take care.
Short and sweet.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for reading The Biddlemores. The paperback comes out in November.
Okay, last one. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Jann, Caitlin, and Sarah.
Are you in the tub?
Maureen and Oliver. I've been listening to your podcast for quite a while now, and I really love it. I never miss an episode. However, lately I've been trying to find you on Patreon, so I could sign up and support you on there, and I can't find you. I'm not sure if I'm going to the wrong place or what, but I've put in Jann Arden in the search engine repeatedly, and it doesn't come up with anything. I even tried just JANN, and I got a whole bunch of other Janns, but not you 3. So if you could give me some advice on how to find you on Patreon.
We're going to do that right now.
Maybe even supply a link. That would be wonderful. I love the podcast. Yeah, and I want to support you on Patreon, but I can't. Bye.
I love the fact. I think she's either in a shower or in the Titanic maybe is going down.
She might have taken us to the bathroom with her. Okay. I mean, we are that close with people now.
Yeah, we're close. Okay, this is what we're going to do for you and for everybody who's having trouble finding our Patreon link. So there's going to in today's show, in the show notes, Sarah will have a link that all you will have to do is click. It's going to take you to where you sign up for me. We're going to make it that easy for you. You don't have to do anything else. Show notes today. And what I mean by show notes is when you go to Spotify or iTunes or iHeart, there's always like a little description of what we've talked about. It's texting. So, underneath where the recording, where you'll hit play, you'll just see, today Jann rages about the goddamn horses for fucking 20 minutes. Da-da-da. And then you'll go down and then you'll see a little, like it'll be highlighted probably in blue with a website, and you'll just click that and it'll take you to Patreon. Thank you for supporting us. And once again, $5 a month, which is probably half the price of a goddamn coffee. I told you the coffee that I ordered all the time there, And I get it like 3 times a week, is $7.25 because I do a plant milk. I have an extra shot of decaf. I know, why bother, but I do. And I do the half sweet and this or that. But by the time I've done all my amendments, Jesus, it's like $7.25, please. I know it's going to be $7.25 when they tell me. So yeah, $5. And like this month, our first live event, which happens October the 1st in Toronto, at my record company, actually, Universal has a beautiful little studio space. All the folks got a link for an early chance to buy tickets. Our tickets, folks, the first time went in 32 seconds. Our next round that we opened up to Patreon and our public and our regular listeners, 60 seconds. And we only sold 125 tickets. So we're going to do something bigger. But things like that, you got to break in the price point. And so everyone at this event is going to get a gift bag. We're going to be, doing some pictures. We're going to be hopefully taking questions from the audience at this thing. We don't even know what we're doing, but things like that.
I also wanted to just very quickly say that we are putting together the gift bags right now. We've got a start on them, but
yes,
our listeners work in all sorts of industry. If you work for a company that might want to advertise with us or put something in the gift bag, just send a note through either Patreon or our website, or you know what? I'm even going to just
send us a voice note,
or
whatever.
You can email us. You can email us, and this will be in the podcast description show notes too. JannArdenPod@gmail.com. And I had someone reach out asking about putting their book in our gift bag, and I just said, well, what's your budget with this type of thing? Because so there's
125 gift bags, right? And probably 130 to be on the safe side, because we don't want, it's 130. So if you have 130 things that you want to put in a gift bag and advertise with us and have other listeners, hear your thing, we really are interested. We'd love to hear from you.
Yes. So just a quick note on that. But yeah, thank you so much.
I'm going to be putting, I still have a huge supply of maxi pads. So I'm going to bring those with me. These are the ones that go way up your ass, like when you sleep at night. I've got like a whole fucking trunk. I'm not kidding. I came across, I'm like, what is in this box? And I must have taken it down. Sign the wings. Really. I always thought it would be a great idea to have maxi pad fortune strips, that the adhesive strip on the back. So you take your adhesive strip off, and underneath it'll be like, you're going to have a shitty day, or you're going to
like fortune cookies, but pads.
Fortune cookies, but fortune pads. Go ahead, steal my idea. So anyway, I've got a crate. I must have found them on sale or something.
I'm writing this
because I used to have
something there.
Okay, write that down. But don't be surprised if you get a big maxi pad, unopened, obviously, in your gift
clean.
Bags.
Anyway, we're going to head over to Patreon. So join us there from the link in the show notes if you're not already with us. Jan, anything you want to, tease that we're covering over there?
We're going to talk a little bit more about relationships. We are going to talk about, I think we need to explore this whole thing about regret a little bit more. And there's a few other little surprises that I have. One of them might be concerning my metal detector. So, you never know what that could mean.
I have a date story I can share with you too.
And we have a dating story. Oh my God. I do. Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't even tell the story that I want to tell. I wish I could.
Why not? It's a closed environment. We don't have to name names.
Let me think about it.
Okay. We'll see you on Patreon.
Okay, we'll see you on Patreon. Love you guys. You can find us on all your favorite places that you stream. You can subscribe to us. We're on YouTube every week. So if you want to see our wonderful faces, actually say these words, you can go to our YouTube. But subscribing, giving us a review, it helps other people find the podcast. And we really appreciate you. Really looking forward to seeing 130 of your shining faces at our event, October the 1st. Thank you so much for all your support. And join Patreon. There's all kinds of great things. We have content that goes up there. I put stuff on there every day. It's so boring. You're going to love it. Anyway, we love you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Caitlin, we'll see you next week. Toodly-doo.